So all they've been screaming at us was climate change, climate change, climate change. Oh, we got to protect the planet, the environment. But here we are building a 4-lane highway through the Amazon. What about that screams protecting the rainforest, protecting the planet? What about that? Like, please make this make sense to me. But you can't. You can't. This is how we starting off the craziness today. All right, but listen, you know how this goes. Question everything. You should. And remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's get to it.
This 4-lane highway is being built through the Brazilian Amazon rainforest. It was supposed to be protected land. It's one of the big infrastructure projects to get the nearby city, Belém, ready to host the COP Climate Change Summit in November. Claudio Verachetchi made his living from harvesting acai berries. His trees have been cut down to make way for the road.
Our fear is someone will come here and say, we're going to need this area to build a gas station, to build a warehouse that will be used by trucks, and then we will have to leave here.
Scientists also fear it could harm wildlife and ecosystems. This wildlife hospital treats animals usually injured by people or cars. It releases them back into the wild here, which the highway might make a lot harder.
We are going to lose an area to release these animals back into the wild, which is the natural environment of these species. It does directly affect the conservation of these animals. Land animals will no longer be able to cross to the other side too, reducing the areas where they occur.
The state government said this would be a sustainable highway, important for mobility, and that it would have wildlife crossings, bike lanes and solar lighting. A new conference centre is also popping up, hotels are being frantically built, the port will house cruise ships to sleep more people, the small airport is being more than tripled in size. Some in the city think this development will bring benefits.
We hope that the discussions aren't just on paper, but become real actions, so that the population in the future will have cleaner air.
That's definitely the aim, but some fear the preparations for this summit risk undermining this. This 4-lane highway is being...
This is scary. And this is another way that man is going to destroy us all. We are. We are our own worst enemy. You see it happening right before your very eyes, and it's nothing we can do about it because they're just going to move forward.
Plastic bags, rags and even clothes clogging up the toilets. That's what forced an Air India flight to be diverted last week. The flight had been heading from Delhi to Chicago when staff noticed some of the toilets were unserviceable. Crew members then found 8 of its 12 toilets in business and economy class had broken down. Inside, they discovered polythene bags, rags and clothes that had been flushed down and stuck in the plumbing, according to a statement from Air India. The plane was 2 hours into its 14-hour journey when it was forced to divert back to Chicago. The airline said it had offered passengers full refunds and rescheduled flights. Plastic bags, rags...
Now, I understand parents at home finding clogged toilets when they got teenage boys and they finding socks clogged in their toilet drain. It ain't right, but we understand why that's happening, right? Please make this one make sense. I just gave myself hiccups. Please make this one make sense. Why are y'all doing this? And this is one of the reasons, see, I gave myself the hiccups. This is one of the reasons why I did not want to use the bathroom on the plane. I did everything I could to prevent myself. I went before I got on the plane. I didn't really eat until I got on the plane. That way, I probably wouldn't have to go until we landed and I made it to my destination. This is disgusting, man. Like, why? Why are y'all taking off clothes and just stuffing them in the toilets and clogging? I don't get it. I don't get it.
This is the moment Mount Washington State Park workers decided to battle heavy winds in New Hampshire.
Why?
Chelsea Parker and Patrick Hummel were nearly blown over. The park measured steady winds of 110 to 120 miles per hour, topping out at a gust of 129 miles per hour while they were there.
I don't think you had to walk out there to come to that conclusion and be able to tell that you'd probably be knocked over by that wind. A simple look outside and yeah, that's pretty strong winds right there. Go right back, turn right back around.
The temperature was 0 degrees Fahrenheit with a wind chill of -37. Parker told CNN anything over 90 gets you pushed around like a kite, no matter their weight.
Major backlash against Tesla owner, billionaire Elon Musk, his role in the Trump administration, and his statements in support of far-right politics. Shares have dropped more than 47% since President Trump's inauguration, and there's also been a spike in vandalism against Tesla vehicles and dealerships.
Since the world's richest man has taken on a different role.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
Slashing the federal workforce. Elon Musk's jump into politics is now drawing backlash.
Like, he didn't realize him holding up that chainsaw and what he was saying was gonna ignite this type of response from people. You just gave us our pink slip, and then you're gonna stand up there and seemingly gloat about, like, people that enraged people. Like, you didn't see this coming. Like, your reasonings are your reasonings. The government's reasonings are their reasonings why they did it, but then don't turn around and then stand up there and seemingly gloat about people losing their jobs. This was bound to happen.
With Tesla takedown protests across the country, Tesla owners have become targets too.
It was right here.
Like Dr. Kumate Jarus, who found a profane sticker on his Cybertruck.
3 guys came out of the car and just pointed the middle finger and started screaming at me.
CBS News has identified at least 7 cases of vandalism involving Tesla dealerships, charging stations, and vehicles graffitied with swastikas and Nazi references. Now, some Tesla owners, like Cheryl Crow, are waving goodbye to their cars, while others are considering trading in.
So, you gonna miss the car? It's a great car.
I will miss the car. I will miss the car.
But your principles are...
I think for now, principles have to take priority.
Babak Shokrian has owned his Tesla since 2014.
Wow. Yeah, I was a big believer. I felt like this is somebody who cares, and a company that's doing, cool things. And just within an election cycle, it all kind of turned on its head.
Technology research analyst Dan Ives.
Musk has been here before. If Musk continues to dive into the deep end of the pool with Doge and Trump, and doesn't start really showing more and more focus with Tesla, this brand issue could become more pervasive.
Consumer surveys since 2019 show while Democrats are down on Tesla because of Musk, Republicans now favor buying one more than ever.
But you say that you might come back to a Tesla at some point.
I might come back to a Tesla at some point. It's not impossible.
Major backlash.
Now, my question to you is, how is this not a form of, like, insider trading, or... I don't know what would you call this? Because it's like they're propping him up now. He's down bad. I mean, he's down. If this was a heavyweight championship bout, he's down and the referee is already at count 6. Like, he's down bad. But you see Trump step up, stand beside him, have a card delivered or whatever, stand beside it. Now you're seeing a lot of people buy it. The stock bounced a little bit, but it didn't do enough to interest me into getting any option plays or anything like that. But I'm watching it. But how is I'm wondering if the SEC is watching this, or if people are questioning this. I don't know. Something just seems like crazy that this is all of a sudden happening and what they're doing. Interesting though. Interesting.
While the rich dream of Nazi robots and swastikas, what the rest of us need is warm housing, clean and affordable energy, and cheap public transportation. Shut down the fascists while the rich dream.
All right, man. Like, y'all issuing y'all beef was with Elon, not these robots who are paying attention to everything we do right now. This could come back to haunt us. They don't forget. You watch the movies. These robots don't forget. They could be plotting on us now. See us do something like this, and this be a reason they get back at us in the future. I don't know. Focus your attention at Elon, and still don't be vandalizing nothing anyway. You know what I mean? And that was like the other videos too. I meant to say that in the other video. Y'all are like going too far, vandalizing people's personal vehicles. Like, no. I keep telling y'all gonna run up to the wrong person, and you're gonna FAFO really quick.
Some say they should be labeled domestic terrorists.
I will do that. I'll do it. I'm going to stop them. We catch anybody doing it because they're harming a great American company. You know, I've stuck up for the NFL. I've stuck up for a lot of American companies and other companies, but American companies. I did a very big favor for the NFL. I do favors for all. When you heard an American company, especially a company like this, supplies so many jobs that others are unable to do, when you do that, those people are going to go through a big problem when we catch them. And we have you get a lot of cameras up. We already know who some of them are. We're going to catch them. And they're bad guys. They're the same guys that screw around with our schools and universities, the same garbage. And no, we're going to catch them. And let me tell you, you do it to Tesla and you do it to any company, we're going to catch you and you're going to go through hell.
Now, that's who they need to catch. That's who they need to catch. Right there. Are you kidding me? You just abandoned. Why not take the dog to a shelter? How hard is that? If you feel as though you're no longer able to take, for whatever reason, I'm pretty sure they probably don't even ask you what's the reason when you drop it off. Possibly they do. I don't know. But you can make up anything and drop the dog off to a shelter. How is this dog supposed to survive this? Like, yeah, bro. It's a special place for whoever did this. It's a special place for you, Holmes.
You know, there are studies coming out of Stanford and Harvard that show a lot of mental illness, including anxiety and depression, are related to food. And that changing your diet, food is medicine. By changing your diet, you can lose some of those diagnoses. And you know, this, Sean, is a uniquely American problem. This is not happening like it is here elsewhere in the world. When my uncle was president, 3% of Americans were obese. As you pointed out, it's now close to 80% of adults, 50% of children. But in Japan, it's still 3%.
Men in
Because they don't eat
Japan,
this.
correct me if I'm wrong, don't they live on average 10 years longer than men here?
Yeah, and this generation of our kids is the first generation.
Where is this taking place at? Is this Five Guys? Can't really tell. Or is that Cardiac Grill? Where did it say it on here? I missed it if it did. Dang. I can't really tell.
In 200 years, that is going to have a shorter lifespan than their parents.
Scary.
We are letting down these kids, and there's a moral issue here, and we need to start grappling with it because it's a moral issue, it's a financial issue. The healthcare costs are going to sink us, and the only way that we're going to solve it is by changing what we eat. You know, there are studies coming out of Stanford and Harvard.
And that's the thing. Like, we ain't got to take away the stuff we love. We just got to remove a lot of the chemicals and stuff we use to make it. Like, they still have those restaurants that you love and maybe those chains that you love, restaurant chains you love overseas. They just not allowing them to put all those harmful chemicals in it. That's it. We can still have everything we love to eat and it not be as bad. Probably, what? It would probably be, I would guess now it's probably, 90% of it's bad in that. If we remove some of that stuff, it'd probably go down to about, 30%. And then you just have to eat it in, moderation. Missing college students seen. Oh. Who's the dude? she's stumbling too. She was stumbling. Y'all saw that? So I thought I did hear reports say that she had been drinking or whatever, but but they interviewed everybody. I think it still makes no sense to me what happened and how she just disappeared. And like they were saying, if she went in the ocean like they said she did, her body would have turned up, but it hasn't.
Well, I couldn't have gotten through 8 years in the White House without my big brother. That's another sort of unusual aspect to our lives, our relationship, was this whole, being married to the president of the United States thing.
Yeah.
that none of us kind of banked on. I mean, we knew Barack was smart and, ambitious, but, I think, but you talked me into supporting his run.
I did.
The interesting thing about this is the majority of the people who have a comment about their relationship isn't even married. They ain't married. So it's hard for you to understand that in a marriage or relationship like that, it's okay for y'all to do separate things sometimes. I enjoy doing separate things away from my missus. That don't mean I love her any less. That don't mean we have problems in our relationship. No, that means I may want to go to a game with some of my friends or homies. That may mean I want to go do this. That means I want to attend this. She may not want to, and I go. That doesn't mean, so you mean to tell me this is the first couple y'all have ever seen away from each other, separate at events? Not one not there and the other one there? Listen, like it's always interesting to hear some people, because I heard the rumors and there's been a lot of rumors, and if it comes out later that they're having trouble, then they having trouble. It is what it is. But boy, as soon as somebody see you not with your significant other, oh, trouble in paradise. Oh, she wasn't there at the funeral. Something got to be wrong. Oh, he was at the game. They ain't together. He got to be cheating. He got a baby on the way. Like, what? I heard all that type of stuff, man. Y'all be like, come on, man. No. Until they say it, I ain't believing nothing until I hear it come from them.
President Trump's assault on the judiciary by attacking judges and even their families when their rulings don't go his way is well documented. But now as president, he's taking an even more aggressive approach, going after law firms that represent clients like that the president doesn't like. The first to feel his wrath is a law firm which represents former special counsel Jack Smith. Smith, as you know, is now a private citizen, but as special counsel with the Department of Justice, he brought criminal charges against Trump in 2 cases. Smith is expecting to be the subject of a number of investigations by Republicans in Congress for which he'll need legal help. Now, in late February, the president signed a memo suspending the active security clearances of lawyers from a firm called Covington and Burling who represent Jack Smith.
Hold it. This is a good one. Is everybody listening? Deranged Jack Smith. We're going to call it the Deranged Jack Smith signing or bill.
In some cases, when sensitive materials involved, attorneys need security clearances to adequately represent a client. For instance, Donald Trump's attorneys had security clearances working on the classified documents case against him and other cases as well. If Mr. Smith's attorneys can have access to sensitive documents, the question is, can he be adequately represented in national security matters by them? According to legal scholars, it could also violate the First Amendment's right to free speech, the Fifth Amendment's guarantee of due process, and the Sixth Amendment's right to effective assistance of counsel. It's not just one firm that's been targeted so far. Another firm, Perkins Coie, it's called, they've been targeted. They represented Hillary Clinton's campaign when she ran against Trump, and they hired an opposition research firm, which ended up producing the now infamous Steele dossier. Lawyers at Perkins Coie are currently working on a case challenging Trump's ban on trans service members, and the president has also attacked them for having internal diversity initiatives. 4 days ago, that law firm's security clearances were also suspended, and they've been banned from entering some federal buildings. The question left in the air, of course, is who's next? And that's a question the president likely wants law firms asking themselves. These actions against two prominent firms certainly send a chilling message to other firms about taking on cases that President Trump might not like. Even if individual lawyers may be brave enough to incur the wrath of the most powerful man in the world, the other attorneys at their firm may not be. The other clients of these firms may cancel their business because they're afraid the president will then punish their companies just by using one of these law firms. That, it seems, is not an accidental byproduct of the president's actions. It sounds like that's the point. Yesterday, in an interview on Fox Business, the president threatened more firms will be targeted.
Wildlife experts have said they are extremely concerned over potential environmental damage after an oil tanker and cargo ship crashed in the North Sea yesterday. The tanker was carrying 220,000 barrels of jet fuel when it was struck, and at least one cargo tank containing jet fuel was ruptured. Jet fuel is around 50 times more toxic to aquatic life than diesel oil, and wildlife experts warn this could be lethal to a group of gannets, a major bird colony living close to the collision site. Oil clings to their feathers, making them less waterproof and buoyant in the water, which can lead them to drowning, or it can even poison them through ingestion. Either way, the RSPB are really concerned. Wildlife experts.
So, with seeing this and how they're saying, an environmental concern, you still think we should be building a road through the Amazon? Just a mere question, Just a thought from little old me. What do y'all think? Maybe not. Maybe we should table that thought or forget that thought.
More than 80% of dresses are made in China.
When you heard about tariffs coming, how did that impact your thoughts about buying a dress?
I definitely wanted to make sure that I bought a dress immediately.
Try to avoid the tariffs.
Yes.
We met the 28-year-old as she was shopping with family.
I can see it now, boy. So we need to go ahead and get married, right? Like, what do you mean? Why are you putting so much pressure on me? Because of the tariffs. We need to have this wedding before the tariffs. A lot of dudes is getting pressured to get married right now because of tariffs. That's insane. Oh my gosh, bro. You could see it. You could hear it being said right now. So I was thinking, like we should definitely, because we talked about it, we talked about the whole marriage thing. I told you I wanted to be married someday, woman. I didn't say I was ready to get married now, but you said you wanted to get married and these tariffs is gonna make the dress like all these awkward conversations are gonna be happening.
Family and friends at Stevenson's, a small Elkhart, Indiana specialty store doing a big business in bridal.
What did you think when you heard the word tariff this time around?
Oh no, here we go again, I guess.
Owner Danny Reynolds told us he had to raise prices in 2019 during the first Trump administration, when 25% tariffs were enacted on textiles and apparel.
I'm seeing more in the 1800.
This time, he doesn't know what will happen.
The difficult original decision is going to be in the hands of the manufacturer. They're going to have to decide how much price increase they can absorb and what they need to pass on to us, which ultimately would get passed on to the bride.
These dresses are manufactured and imported by companies like Justin Alexander, which sells to 700 bridal stores nationwide.
We have around 10,000 dresses at a given time.
We met owner Justin Warshaw at his New Jersey warehouse.
You can't just shift wedding dress production to the United States.
No, it's impossible. The labor force does not exist to make dresses here in America.
Once they arrive from overseas, workers inspect them before they go to the store. The company did move some manufacturing to Vietnam and Myanmar during the last round of tariffs. It wasn't enough to blunt their impact.
But a dress like this takes hundreds of hours to hand bead this.
The average dress, Warshaw told us, has increased in price from $1,300 to $1,800 over the last 5 years.
I love the stretch lace.
That could trickle down to retailers such as Danny Reynolds.
I love it.
and for better or worse, to the nation's brides.
An extra 10, 12%, what would that do to your budget?
It would definitely change the dress that I would pick.
In the bridal boutique, love, lace, and potentially levies. More than 80%.
So I looked it up, right? And it says, and I thought this was going to be more. Mind you, you're talking to a dude. We went to the courthouse. We did the courthouse thing. Straight to the courthouse. I think we was out of there in about 20 minutes. In and out. Time enough to go get us something to eat right afterwards. You know what I mean? I thought the dress. So where does the money go then? Because I hear astronomical numbers when it comes to weddings. So where does all that money go to? Because the dress, it says the average cost of a wedding gown in the United States typically falls between $1,500 and $2,500. And some studies suggesting a national average closer to $2,000, which is between $1,500 and $2,500 anyway. So where does all the money go then? For the venue, the food, I'm guessing, and everything else like that? Like, because I be hearing crazy numbers. And I guess the jewelry, the rings, too. So, I don't know.
There's some news breaking this hour we want to tell you about. Department of Education employees have been told today to vacate the building for security reasons starting at 6 p.m. this evening. That's according to a memo sent to all employees. The memo did not state what the security reason was that required employees to vacate at 6 p.m. today. The employees were told to take their laptops home with them. According to the memo, the building will reopen on Thursday. It comes as the Department of Education is already reckoning with large-scale cuts from Elon Musk. Donald Trump has also threatened to shutter the agency entirely. Let's bring in my friend and colleague, NBC News White House correspondent.
So why am I taking the laptop home? Y'all sending me home. I'm getting paid? Am I getting paid? Because if not, this sounds like I'm fired. This straight up sounds like I'm fired. So why am I if I take this laptop home, I'm keeping it. I can hear it. That's oh, I got a toxic brain. I'm sorry. I got a toxic brain because that is exactly be my thought process. Why am I taking it home? Somebody tell me why I'm taking it home. If I taking it home, you ain't get it back. And then if you try to hold my check.
Vaughn Hilliard. Vaughn, what do you know?
There's a lot to track agency to agency, department to department right now, Nicole. It's frankly kind of difficult here, but I know at this point in time that there have been workforce reductions planned across departments and agencies beyond just the probationary employees, folks that are working in the federal government for a year or two. We're talking about potentially 20, 30, 40% reductions that were planned across the board. And we saw from Health and Human Services Department this weekend, email go out to all HHS employees, the 80,000 employees, essentially offering them another buyout opportunity, a $25,000 stipend to leave their jobs. We talked to many federal workers who regretted not taking the first round of buyout offers because those probationary employees, for example, were fired just days later with no severance. So essentially these off-ramps have been presented again, but been told that federal government workers should expect major workforce reduction. And of course, it's not standard operating procedure for department employees to be told to not come into the office here. We do not know at this time if there is a plan for a mass firing at the Department of Education, yet at the same time, they have given plenty of indications from the President of the United States to the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon herself, that workers should be prepared for the dismantling of the department. So I think this is notable heading into the night.
So
anytime you've worked at a job and you've done something wrong and they tell you, you know what? Go ahead home. Take the rest of the day off. We'll contact you tomorrow. What's your first thought? I'm fired. They just fired me. That's pretty much 9 out of 10 times what just happened. So again, back to my earlier statement, it seems like they were fired. Like, what else could it be?
So what is the security concern about? Is it misdirection? Or, I mean, I worked in the White House after September 11th, and a security concern was usually imminent, not something noticed 24 hours prior.
Right, and it was about a week ago, actually, there were also questions about the Department of Housing and Urban Development. There were metal detectors that were having all employees go through, and there were lines about 3 blocks long for employees just to get into the workplace. Last week, the exact security concerns were never articulated or stated by the department. And from the Department of Education at this point in time, Nicole, we don't have answers either. And so it is quite something that these sort of decisions are being made, but we have a very few specifics on exactly why the decisions are being executed the way that they are.
Let me also ask you something from my vantage point as a former White House employee about shredding and destroying documents. This was not only unethical, but I think illegal. But NBC News is reporting this. USAID staff is being told to shred and burn all their classified documents. Quote, the U.S. Agency for International Development is instructing its staff in Washington to shred and burn documents, according to an email obtained by NBC News. The document destruction was set to take place Tuesday, according to an email from Erica Carr, the agency's acting executive secretary. Quote, shred as many documents first and reserve the burn bags for when the shredder becomes unavailable or needs a break, Carr wrote.
I ain't doing it. And if you force me to do it, I need that in writing. That you're telling me to do this. You know that feeling in the pit of your stomach where you feel like, yo, this don't seem right, this don't seem ethical, this don't seem legal. I don't think we should be doing this. Because we've all seen them turn on you and be like, well, we didn't tell them to do that. We told them to do this. And they'll play their little word semantic games and leave you to blame. Yeah, no. Put it in writing.
I worked in government for almost a decade. I've never heard of so much shredding being required that you would know ahead of time that, quote, the shredder would become unavailable or need a break. What is that about?
Right. I actually this morning got a message from somebody who left USAID earlier this year and passed along this email to me. And my response is naturally, is this standard operating procedure? And this individual said no, that they had never heard about burning or shredding of federal records at USAID. But then again, this individual told me they've never heard of the entire agency being gutted and their headquarters at the Ronald Reagan building being shut down. When are documents, burned by the State Department or USAID? Typically at an embassy when it is about to be overtaken, Marines have the authorization as a means of ensuring that classified records and personnel data do not get in the hands of individuals who are seen as threats. They do go and burn documents, but that's not what this situation is here. And I was talking to a national security records lawyer here who has already sent to the National Archives a demand to have the records stop from being destroyed. We should note that this was all taking place today here. In the way that this lawyer put it to me was that this is, number one, a violation of the Federal Records Act, but number two, that there is a standard operating procedure when it comes to processing records. And unless all of these records were digitized or there was a clarity that, for example, records older than 10 years old that have been appropriately deemed by necessary officials as no longer having to be archived, may be terminated, those can then be ultimately destroyed. But this email is very explicit to these individuals who received it. Quote, shred as many documents first and reserve the burn bags for when the shredder becomes unavailable or needs a break. They were directed to go and clear out these classified safes and personnel documents from what used to be USAID headquarters. And Marco Rubio, the State Department that is now overseeing USAID, they just earlier this week said that 83% of the contracts that USAID oversaw have been eliminated. And the way that a USAID official suggested to me is that if they're truly trying to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, many of these documents would have records as to exactly where payments have gone and how contracts have ultimately been executed across the world. And so if you are shredding in burning these documents, you're effectively removing a paper trail that could be paramount to actually understanding how USAID has executed and used its capacities overseas. And so much of that could be understood by these archived documents that were clearly been ordered today to be burned and destroyed.
Corruption on both sides. Them saying, hey, y'all have been misappropriating funds, embezzling, whatever it is y'all have been doing, and saying that these funds have been supposedly going, but not been going, been being rerouted back to individuals or groups. Now we're burning documents that could prove that. Who do you trust at this point? That's the question you have to wake up and ask yourself every single day. Who do you trust?